Hello and welcome to my gallery. We're going to be showing you just a few paintings. I've got hundreds, possibly thousands of paintings, so I don't want to overwhelm you, so we'll select less than 20, and I'm going to show you some watercolours and some oils. We're going to be looking at some woodland scenes with trees and atmosphere, and then in the second part of the exhibition we'll show you some seascapes. So this is the first painting we're going to be talking about, and this was painted on location in the UK in Wales, in Aberavon, where I used to live, and it was painted early in the morning, and the idea was to try and capture that sort of minty green frostiness, and it was a fairly warm day in the end, and the sun was coming up, and these en plein air paintings, they do become memories that I can remember standing there. It was freezing cold in the morning, I had to go out quite early to catch the right light, and I can remember the scene was changing very, very quickly as the sun was coming up and the light was moving, so I had to sort of make a decision of where the light was going to be and stick to it. So that was quite nice, and this was quite tricky. I did finish some of the tree at home in the studio, which I take photographs as well, so I can refer to those. So yeah, quite enjoyed that one. This one is painted on panel, which has got canvas bonded to it. So on to the next one. So this is a much smaller painting, and I quite enjoy doing these small paintings because they're quite quick, and this was actually done on a demonstration for my oil painting channel, and this was all about, again, a mixture of cool and warm. We've got lots of cool colours over here, and then again, as the sun is coming up, you'll see in my work a lot of paintings are about the sun, light, shadows and so on, and the shadows are just as important here as the sunlight. In actual fact, you know, there's more shadows and cooler colours than the warmth, which perhaps just makes that even more prominent. Compositionally, we've got this kind of U or H composition. It's quite balanced either side, and all the action is here, almost a bit of a circle there, but this branch here, again, maximum contrast, light against dark here, and that just leads the eye back into the scene here. So small, but a nice sense of light in that one. So on to a nice big watercolour next. So this could be the star of the show, possibly. This is a very atmospheric full sheet of watercolour paper, 30 inches by 22 inches. So this required big paint brushes, broad strokes, splashing water on. I used my sponge, being really brave with it. And it was all about trying to capture this mist through the woodland here, and the sunlight, again, sunlight coming up over the trees here, and given the illusion of lots of detail, but it isn't. It's all about the atmosphere on this scene, and the idea is we've got this little lead in that takes us in. We've got this Z that takes us through the woodland, these strong contrasts, again sharp edges, contrast against the softer edges, and this is a good example of watercolour painting itself, and that's probably a skill that a lot of watercolour artists really look to achieve, is to get that spontaneousness and have that freedom to not get bogged down with details and just let watercolour do its thing. And it's magic when it happens. It doesn't always happen. So certainly something like this is a one-off piece. You know, I could paint this again, and I have done a smaller version, but it looks completely different. With the way the watercolour works, they're always unique. We've got another large scene painted in a similar way, but slightly different scene. So this one was actually painted recently, again full sheet, large watercolour, and again light. You know, this will have to be the theme of the exhibition, I think, light, although we've got seascapes coming up in a moment, so stick around. So loads of white here, and I've used the white of the paper here, and in watercolour that's the most powerful light you can achieve, and with these strong darks it really does give that sense of light. And a painting like this will bring light to a room. It has that real sense of sunlight. Again, full of atmosphere, these soft edges as the light comes through and wraps itself around these trees. And a nice little lead in here, dappled sunlight. So again, the only way to paint something like this is free and spontaneous, and say watercolours at their best. And watercolours are great for creating atmosphere, but you can be quite powerful with oil paintings. That here we've got a lot of dark going on here, and we've got some light coming through here. And I remember we were in our camper van and we stopped just for a cup of tea in I think it was obviously some wooded area, and the light was just coming through, and I just snapped a quick photo, and I instantly knew I would be painting this scene. And again, we've got quite a lot of impasto marks here with these highlights on the trees, which when it's lit, the painting from above, they'll really stand out and gives it a nice sense of three-dimensional qualities. And that's in a square format. I don't often paint in square formats, but it suited that scene quite well. So that was a scene from France, that last one there, but we're back to Wales in the UK. This was one of Kate and I's regular dog walks, the Clanacairon track, just outside of Aberaeron. And so again, lots of memories. This was all about, again, the light coming through the trees here. And although when I took the photograph, it didn't show up in the camera, which is quite often the way. So as an artist, you need to remember what you saw, all these colours. It was an autumn time, so we've got cool and warm, and it's just, again, suggestion of detail, but it has a lot of movement about the scene. So another watercolour, a small one. So a much smaller watercolour, and watercolours are a very quick medium that you can get something down very quickly, and if you don't fuss with it, they can look amazing. And that's exactly what I tried to do here. This was actually using a reference photo from one of our members of my website who shared a photo, and there was a lot of green in the photo, and I wanted to go more warmer with the colours. So that's what we did here, and this is quite nice, this little hole here that your eye kind of goes through. A couple of sheep there just for a little bit of interest, but I've not put too much detail on those. We've got this branch that just pulls across there, that again, another branch there creates this structure, and all very soft here. It's all about the light. So a nice little piece, that one. And this scene here is actually just over the road from where we live. There's a pond, and there was actually two trees. One fell down a couple of years ago. This one's still going, and we've got some lovely reflections here in the water. It does dry up by the end of the summer, normally this pond, but this must have been, I think, in the spring, so there's plenty of water there. And again, nice contrast of the red and the green complementary colours in this one, a real sense of warmth. And again, square composition. So maybe I do square composition more than I think. So that's the woodland ones. And another subject I'm very fond of painting are seascapes. So let's have a look at some seascapes. And this is a scene from Cornwall in the southwest of the UK. That's where I'm from originally. That's where I grew up as a child. So many a days spent on this beach here. This is Gwithian, just on the other side of there. So I actually painted this on location while we were visiting family in the UK. So I live in France now, so we go back occasionally, and I painted this obviously on the cliff side, and it was a nice light. We had the sunlight coming across here, which was creating these interesting shadows here in the cove. So it was, as I was painting on location, it was a case of get the marks down quickly without getting involved in too much detail, which is what I like, that sort of style of painting. So from Cornwall off to Venice. So the boats play a big part in this scene here, that strong contrast and just the abstract shapes here of the reflections. And Venice is a wonderful subject for painting that backdrop just as a silhouette, creating an atmosphere. Lovely soft pastel colours off in the distance, and again impasto here with the light, when the painting is lit from above, will catch this light and really give a nice sense of light to the scene. Again, this is painted on wooden panel, this one. That I do like to paint on wooden panels, canvas panels, and stretch canvas as well, and obviously paper for watercolours. So again, this started life as a small painting first, and it worked really well on the demonstration, so I decided to paint it again on a full sheet, using the same methods I did on the smaller scene, slightly more detail, although this paint doesn't rely on detail because it doesn't have a huge amount. It's more about atmosphere and this lovely softness across here to create that morning mist on the sea there, and a bit of action with the birds flying about. And I think I used some Prussian blue on this, which is not a colour I normally use, but it works really well having this cool blue with the warmer tones on that side there. One thing I really enjoy painting with watercolour is water, and it's such a great medium to capture these effects of just the gentle ripples on the water. And again, sunshine appearing in the painting, soft edges in the clouds here, so it puts focus on the buildings here, and the boats aren't really the main focal point because they've been painted very loosely. It's more about the structure of the building. Obviously, an iconic scene, La Rochelle in France, that we went there last year we did, and took some photos. It was a very busy place and couldn't actually park near, so it was difficult to get the painting equipment close by without having to carry it. And I'm sure a lot of people who live in the area I was raised will tell you that Gwithin is their favourite beach, which is this one here. Again, fond memories that as a child we would play just behind this rock here, which we called the Sheep's Pool, and we could jump off into the rocks. Got Godrevy lighthouse off in the distance, and I've got a watercolour coming up in a moment of that scene. And this was all about capturing those reflections, the sort of softness in the sand here, but again, I do enjoy painting seascapes because it brings back lots of fond memories as a child of days spent on the beach. That we're now bang smack in the middle of France, so a long way from the coast, so I can live through my paintings the memories of being by the seaside. And I love the sparkle in this scene. This is Dieppe Harbour, while we were waiting for the ferry to arrive, a chance to take a few photos. And I'm not a great traveller on the ferry, so perhaps having to think about art is a good way to not be nervous about the ferry trip. That we quite often now just get a cabin and go to sleep and hope for the best. But it's not been too bad our last few trips back to the UK. The challenge here was to create a lovely soft misty effect in the background there. Loads of houses there, but I've concentrated more on the atmosphere and the sea, the sparkle. There's some cars and so on the top there, but there's no detail on there. It's all about the overall feel to the scene, capturing the atmosphere, which is what my impressionistic approach to painting is. And when I say impressionism, I don't necessarily mean sort of Monet. I think sort of painterly and just creating the impression of the buildings and the scene, really. But I do, dip into impressionistic techniques that Monet used, such as broken colour and so on some of my paintings. And then a couple of watercolours. Back to Venice, and watercolour is a great medium for Venice. As I said, those silhouettes at the backdrop of the buildings there, the sparkle on the water, and I love painting these figures in that loose way, create that sense of movement. Again, nice warm overall feel to the painting. Nice small size. I think this is possibly 9 by 12, possibly. So not a big painting. And watercolour would be a great medium to take to Venice to paint on location, just to capture those moments, and then you could work them up into larger paintings in the studio, or even work from a watercolour to make an oil painting. And then our last painting of the exhibition, and this is how I know and remember Cornwall. Cloudy days. We did have a few days of sunshine, I'm sure, when I was growing up, but I do remember a lot of this atmosphere, which is great. I love painting atmosphere now, so it doesn't bother me now. Another trip to Cornwall, and you could paint this scene so many times in different weather conditions, as a lot of the great artists so on did. A different scene. It's not about the reflections on this one, which quite often the seascapes are. This is all about the atmosphere, the sort of the mistiness and the overcast day. So very muted colours, but lots of connection throughout the painting. Has a sense of wholeness, this scene here. So there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed that small exhibition, and so there's only 16 paintings in the end, and I'll do some more of these. As I've got a lot of paintings to get through, so I thought it'd be good to show some work to you, those of you who follow me, and obviously if you're an art collector and looking to purchase some artwork, that there's a link in the description where you can go to my gallery. There's a link in the description also to go to my website to sign up for that. We'll get notifications when I have a new exhibition, which we'll have another one shortly, and we'll keep it to this sort of size so we don't overwhelm you. So there you go. Hit the like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and if I don't see you on the next exhibition, we'll see you perhaps on a demo.